They told me the job was simple. Watch a gate, stay in the booth, and never, under any circumstances, whistle. I thought the $40 an hour pay was a blessing. I didn't realize it was hush money. My name is Elias, and for 2 weeks, I was the night guard at Black Ridge Preserve. You won't find it on any map. There are no hiking trails, no campgrounds, and no visitors. The park is just a massive, suffocating stretch of ancient Appalachian forest surrounded by a 10-foot iron fence. I was desperate for the cash. I was living out of my car, drowning in debt, when a man in a charcoal suit offered me the position. He didn't ask for a resume. He just handed me a flashlight, a heavy brass key, and a laminated sheet of paper that would eventually haunt my every waking thought. The pay was the first red flag. $40 an hour to sit in a booth, watch a gate, and make sure nobody entered a park that didn't officially exist. No taxes, no benefits, just a man in a crisp suit handing me a thick envelope of cash every Friday. He called it Black Ridge Preserve. You won't find it on Google Maps. You won't find it on any hiking forum. If you drive deep enough into the Appalachian foothills, past the rusted-out gas stations and the towns where the people stop staring only when you leave, you might find the gravel road. I was desperate. 6 months behind on rent, living out of a sedan that sounded like a blender full of marbles. I took the job. But before the man in the suit left me at that booth, he handed me a laminated sheet of paper. "The rules," he said, his voice as dry as dead leaves. "Read them. Memorize them. If you break one, don't bother calling us. We won't be coming to get you." The booth was nice enough. It had a small heater, a landline phone with no dial, and a heavy iron door. I sat down and looked at the list. Keep the gate locked at all times. If you hear a baby crying in the woods, turn up your radio. Do not investigate. Between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., the shadows will move toward the booth. Do not look at them directly. Focus on the floor. If a man in a park ranger uniform approaches the window, ask him for his badge number. If he gives you any number starting with 7, do not open the door. Under no circumstances, never whistle. It likes the melody. I laughed. I actually laughed. It sounded like a bad creepypasta. The first 3 nights were silent. Dead silent. That was the weirdest part. No crickets, no owls, no wind. Just the heavy, suffocating weight of the trees. On the 4th night, I heard it. A faint, thin wail. It sounded exactly like a newborn child left in the cold. It was coming from the thicket of oaks about 50 yards past the gate. My instinct, every human instinct I had, told me to grab my flashlight and run. I reached for the door handle. Then I remembered Rule 2. Turn up your radio. I fumbled for the dial on the small transistor radio on the desk. Static filled the room, then a distorted jazz station. I cranked the volume until the speakers crackled. The crying got louder. It wasn't just a cry anymore. It was a rhythmic, guttural screaming, like something was trying to mimic a human voice, but didn't quite understand how vocal cords worked. It lasted for 20 minutes. When the silence returned, it was heavier than before. By the 2nd week, the silence had a physical presence. It felt like cotton stuffed in my ears. I found myself talking to myself just to hear a sound. That was my mistake. I started humming a tune, a simple melody my mother used to sing. Without thinking, I whistled a high note. The silence broke. Something heavy, something massive, slammed into the roof of the booth. The metal groaned. I froze, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Thump, thump, thump. Something was walking on the roof. It didn't sound like a bear. It sounded like 2-legged footsteps, but each step had the weight of a ton of bricks. I stared at the floor. Rule 3. Focus on the floor. Outside the window, I saw them in my peripheral vision, the shadows. They weren't just the absence of light. They were 3-dimensional ink-black shapes crawling across the gravel. They moved like spiders, twitching and jerking toward the glass. I kept my eyes locked on a scuff mark on the linoleum. Help! Me? The voice came from right outside the glass. It sounded exactly like me. My tone, my cadence. It's cold out here, man. Open the door. I forgot my key. I didn't look. I knew I was sitting inside the booth. I knew there was no me outside, but the voice was perfect. It started listing things, my mother's name, my childhood dog, the secret I had never told anyone. It was digging through my head, looking for a way in. The clock hit 3:01 a.m. The shadows retracted. The voice stopped. I was drenched in sweat, shaking so hard I couldn't hold my pen to log the shift. Then, a knock. Soft. Measured. Professional. I looked up. A man was standing there. He wore the tan and green of a national park ranger. He looked normal. Too normal. His face was symmetrical in a way that felt uncanny, like a CGI model. "Evening," he said through the glass. His lips didn't move in sync with the words. "Just doing the rounds. Had a report of some trespassing near the ridge." I remembered Rule 4. My throat was dry. "Badge. Badge number, please." He smiled. His teeth were too many to count. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a silver badge. He pressed it against the glass. My blood turned to ice. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. "Let me in, son. It's getting dark out here," the ranger said. The 7 on the badge seemed to pulse. I didn't answer. I backed into the furthest corner of the booth. He stayed there for 3 hours. He didn't blink. He didn't move. He just stared at me with those dead, glassy eyes, holding that badge against the window. When the sun finally began to bleed over the horizon, he simply turned and walked into the woods. He didn't use the path. He walked straight through a briar patch that should have shredded his uniform, but he moved through it like smoke. I quit the next morning. I didn't wait for the man in the suit. I left the keys in the lock, took my last envelope of cash, and drove. I didn't stop until I hit the interstate. I'm in a motel now, 3 states away. I thought I was safe. But this morning, I woke up and found a laminated sheet of paper slid under my door. There was only one rule on it. 6. You shouldn't have whistled. We have your scent now. Last night I heard a baby crying in the motel parking lot. I don't have a radio. If you're driving through the foothills and you see a gravel road that doesn't appear on your GPS, keep driving. Some places aren't meant to be found, and some silences are just waiting for you to make a sound.